take 200 milliseconds to 10 minutes to get a response back to the device to then turn something on or off. Whereas if it's an edge device, the calculations can be done on site locally. You don't really send anything up to the cloud, and you can get instant responses to turn devices off. For example, a gas main that is connected to an edge device. You need that instantaneous kind of response from a device to say, there's a leak here, you need to shut down this gas pipe. Whereas if it was done on a kind of a cellular-based router with no edge capability, that data would have to be sent up to a cloud, then translated. Some sort of API or AI intelligence would have to decipher that data, send it back, and that could take 20 seconds, and by that point it's too late.
Hello and welcome to another Sims podcast, Making It Happen. My name's Graham Hutchins from Sims International, and joining me today, I'm delighted to say, is Nick Manson from Hubit Technology. Nick,
Hi.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Yeah, not too bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Really excited to have you guys on a podcast. We're talking something slightly different to previous podcasts. We're talking IoT and edge technology and everything in and around that space. So, Nick, before we dive straight in, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, your experience, and a little bit about Hubit as well.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, I'm Nick, a product manager at Hubit Technology. I've been working within the world of IoT for pretty much almost 3 years now. Prior to that, I was working in the events industry. And a lot to do with technology as well. So when COVID happened, obviously the events industry went kaput. So the company I was working for, unfortunately, went out of business, and I was looking for something new. And then Hubit came along. It looked really interesting. Hadn't really heard much about IoT before that. So learning about a new industry has been absolutely fascinating, and kind of what goes into things behind the scenes. Most people don't know what IoT is because it's such a background kind of technology that people just don't assume that it's there. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm pretty much involved in everything tech. Anything technology interests me, and it always has done since I was about 5.
So you're a self-confessed geek then?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I've been building PCs since I was 12, been building them and maintaining them for my mates. And I have a distinct memory of when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I don't know if you know the cartoon Dexter's Laboratory.
I do, yeah. My kids used to watch it.
Yeah, I used to get old computer parts of my dad and stick them onto my wall next to my bed and pretend I was him from when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I think it all stemmed on from there, and then every job I've had has been involved with technology. So
and now you're at Hubit.
Now I'm at Hubit, yeah. So dealing with the wonderful world of IoT.
So tell us about Hubit, who they are and what they do. Quick.
So Hubit, we've changed how we've done things over the last year or two. So before that, we were mainly a distributor and box shifter for IoT products such as cellular routers, embedded chipsets for cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever connectivity protocol you might come across in the world of Internet of Things. But more recently, in the last year, we are now a solutions finder and provider. So we will kind of look into the customer application, speak to the customers a bit more about what they're doing, what they're hoping to achieve, any pain points they're suffering, and we'll come up with a kind of an addition to their current application or a complete new solution. So we take them for the whole journey from kind of proof of concept to mass deployment. So we like to get involved in the proof of concept stage where it's just an idea and we're just kind of hashing things out in virtual meetings or on-site meetings, whatever. So Hubit, we mainly provide the hardware, the software, and the cloud-based kind of dashboards and that sort of thing. So for a very basic use case, one of our customers, they deal with franking machines. People still use them.
Really?
Yep. So they go into a customer site and most customers don't like them using their Wi-Fi in the business. So they connect their franking machines to a cellular router, which we provide, and we provide the SIM card that goes with that as well, and the antenna. And then all their data goes into a cloud platform that we've also provided for data visualization. So it's the whole journey from A to Z. Everything that they would need to view their data, and that's the direction that we're looking at going, is providing the full solution.
So what other industries are Hubit involved in? You said franking machines, the one. I know the
that's
IoT space is
yeah,
pretty big.
yeah.
Are there any kind of industries that you specialize in? Or?
Yeah, but building control, building management, utilities, retail. The industries are kind of endless in what IoT can be used for, but a lot of our big customers are kind of building management and security systems, things like that.
So let's dive into the actual technology itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear about IoT and edge devices and how it's cutting edge. So from your perspective, from Hubit's perspective, what are the cutting edge technologies that you're starting to see adopted in the IoT space? Is there a particular market shift to a particular kind of technology or application, next generation, that kind of thing? What's going on?
I mean, it's not necessarily cutting edge, but we've seen a massive deployment in the last kind of 6 months to a year of the Narrowband IoT networks and LTE Cat-M technologies, which it runs on the 4G network, but they're extremely low power connectivity kind of protocols. And where they've been around for a couple of years, the infrastructure wasn't quite there. But O2 and Vodafone have made a big push to make it more widely available in the UK. So the reason it's so prominent now is that the end game is for it to replace 2G. So we've all heard of the 3G shutdown and kind of 3G frequencies being shut down, refarmed for 4G or 5G, even 6G going in the future. But NB-IoT and LTE Cat-M is what a lot of people are going to be using for things like smart meters, because they were all historically 2G kind of devices. And now that 2G is going, it needs to be shifted in another direction for kind of ultra low power devices. So we've seen a big shift in interest for NB-IoT and Cat-M devices. Saying that as well, edge devices, the massive kind of cutting edge kind of device that people can use. The reason for that is mainly for latency and intelligence on site. So with a typical non-edge device, it will send the data to a cloud platform where the cloud platform does all the calculations, and it can take 200 milliseconds to 10 minutes to get a response back to the device to then turn something on or off. Whereas if it's an edge device, the calculations can be done on site locally. You don't really send anything up to the cloud, and you can get instant responses to turn devices off. For example, a gas main that is connected to an edge device, you need that instantaneous kind of response from a device to say there's a leak here, you need to shut down this gas pipe. Whereas if it was done on a kind of a cellular based router with no edge capability, that data would have to be sent up to a cloud, then translated. Some sort of API or AI intelligence would have to decipher that data, send it back, and that could take 20 seconds, and by that point it's too late. So we've seen a lot of people interested in edge devices, and from our supplier point of view, a lot of our suppliers are incorporating edge technology within their kind of main devices now. So one of our suppliers, they have introduced a new 5G router, but they've kind of rehashed it to include edge capability for that sole reason, because it's so many people are interested in it now. And it's going to be a necessity soon, where AI is kind of taking over basically. As we've all seen with these crazy images that they can produce and responses and chat GPT and all that sort of stuff. AI if it kind of feels like Terminator in a way, that's the way it's taken over, but it's
Skynet.
yeah, it's exactly. It's the way the world's going. So
Mm,
edge computing is following that trend because of the
mm.
whole kind of AI and instantaneous kind of reporting with no latency.
Yeah, it's interesting. The head of
Yeah,
Google AI has recently quit as well because he fears for where AI is heading and its capability.
exactly.
Self learning platform. So just coming back to the edge devices and that relationship with the cloud that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Obviously, this data's got to be stored somewhere, and it's got to be stored on the edge device. I mean,
Yeah.
how much data are we talking about here? Are we
It
talking megabytes,
it depends on the
kilobytes?
application. Entirely depends on the application. A lot of the stuff that we deal with is very, very low data. We're talking bytes because
Mm,
it's just string data. So whether it's an on or off, like a 0 or 1, or
mm,
some of our sensors, they output 16 different kind of parameters where it's 4 letters, so 4 bytes per
mm,
parameter. So it really depends on the application. It can be you're talking 2 megabytes a month, or you're talking 2 gigs a month,
mm.
just depending on what they
Sure.
are transmitting and the intervals they're doing it in. Obviously, IoT isn't for kind of CCTV monitoring and that sort of thing
Yeah.
where you're viewing video.
Mm.
I mean, it can be, but it's not the kind of IoT that we provide.
No,
So yeah,
yeah, really interesting. The sometimes minuscule amounts of data being collected, ranging up to terabytes, depending on the application.
exactly, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
it's funny as well because sometimes the most minuscule amount of data is the most mission critical stuff.
Mm,
Where you have for example, we visited a drinking water pumping station yesterday as Hubit for one of our customers, and one of their main concerns is a lid being lifted up or down for one of their inspection tanks.
just a simple lid.
Simple
That's it.
tilt measurement, but that's
Yeah.
one of their most important things they need to monitor because obviously for contamination or
Mm,
whatever, um, that data is literally yes, no, and a time.
mm.
Um, so yeah, it can literally be bytes of data, but it can be the most important. So
Yeah, I think from like you say, from a contamination point of view, you need to know who where and when this is happening, so there's
exactly,
full
yeah,
traceability. You wouldn't even you would even that wouldn't even cross my mind to
no,
have some kind of monitoring system and gathering data on a simple lid that opens and
yeah. I mean,
closes.
it was pretty eye-opening seeing what goes into like a filtration pumping station for drinking water
Mm,
and the amount of monitoring that needs to be done for a site like that. We're walking around and it just blows my mind on how much needs to be done and how much can still be done in terms of
mm.
sensing and monitoring.
So a big, potential opportunity there for you guys
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be involved. And this is just this one. I guess it's a water company or a
Yeah,
water treatment center. And how many dozens or hundreds of those are there around the country that
well,
are
thousands.
looking to
Yeah,
invest in their infrastructure.
yeah,
Okay, so that's one area that you're involved in. What else are you seeing? What other market potential and opportunities are coming your way? With the surge of 5G, 5G this, 5G that. It's
yeah,
what a lot of people talk about. So can you just expand a little bit more on kind of the market potential probably in general for 5G
yeah.
as you see it?
5G is an interesting topic. It always will be, because there's been so much controversy
Mm,
around 5G. Is it safe? Is it good? How long will it last? All that sort of stuff. In the UK, if you've got a 5G phone, you know it's not quite there yet compared to the other networks like 4G or even 3G when it was prominent.
mm,
But it's a technology that has the potential to be fantastic in the fact that devices talk to one another within 5G. Um, when it was first introduced, I was actually at MWC when Intel kind of introduced 5G. I think it was back in 2016,
it's a while
and they
ago.
showcased it as every single device or vehicle or traffic light or pedestrian crossing, whatever. They all have a 5G kind of chip or module in it. They all talk to each other, And through AI, it can work well with things like smart traffic, like changing traffic lights when there's nothing coming, or it senses people walking across the road because they've got a 5G module in their phone. They know where they are. The potential is huge. It's just getting there in a way that it's ready for mass production and mass consumption in the UK. We've had a lot of interest in it, but a lot of the time these 5G modules just kind of fall back to 4G anyway because the network's not there.
Is it a case of the network being there, but also people in these organisations, they say, right, we need to adopt the latest technology, but their infrastructure isn't quite there yet. It's a sound idea in principle. We're a modern company. We need to invest, but they don't fully understand the
I mean, I have no
implications.
doubt that 5G will be the prominent kind of cellular protocol in the future, but it's marketing campaigns from phones and whatnot saying, yeah, this is 5G ready, get the fastest 5G network in your area, blah blah blah. I think people see these adverts from companies like Apple or Samsung and say that their super fast 5G is blazing fast and blah blah blah. But you have to be in a 5G area and near the cell mast to get those sort of speeds. And I think because of that, a lot of companies are kind of trying to adopt this new technology because they think it is the newest and best technology. Yes, a lot of people are investing into it for future proofing. Because these devices do fall back to 4G anyway. And by falling back, I mean, if there's no 5G network, it will go back to 4G.
Yeah.
So
it's backwards compatible.
Yeah. It's a future proofing exercise as well, but it's still not cheap. Whereas prices are coming down for 5G routers and devices, it's still nowhere near as cheap as it is at the moment for 4G devices. And that's still putting a lot of people off.
So
anyway.
when people want to, we say organisations want to adopt this new 5G technology, what are the most important things for them to consider? If they're looking to upgrade, or they've got some kind of infrastructure in place, as Hubit, where would you guys come in and say, right, have you thought about this? Have you got this system in place, or this application? What sort of questions would you ask?
I mean, we ask them what they're trying to do with it and what they're currently doing. A lot of the time, they don't need to do the upgrade yet, and that's the kind of honesty that we want to have with our customers. We don't want them to spend unnecessary money if they don't have to. But the sort of questions we'd ask are things like, how much power consumption is it being run off of battery or mains? Because 5G is quite power hungry, as you can imagine, with the transfer speeds. So it's things like that we need to ask them. How is it being powered? Where's it going? And what sort of device? Is it being used on a train or a car, or is it static? It's those sorts of kind of small questions that we'd ask to understand whether it is an applicable device for them.
Okay, I'll do something else, which is probably a bit more to do with regulatory bodies and the government in kind of overseeing the deployment of 5G policies, regulation. For kind of safe deployment. What's your experience in that field?
In terms of like FCC or CE, that sort of stuff. It is a relevant question. The suppliers we work with that provide the 5G devices, they pride themselves on getting these FCC approvals and CE and RED and E marking, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a very important thing to have. But you can't legally deploy something without that certification. So we don't, as Hubit, tend to really be involved with that sort of certification process unless we are manufacturing our own devices, which we are getting into the kind of world of doing so. So it's a consideration that we need to have, and if we're developing a product for a customer, it's the sort of thing that needs to be spoken about, because with that you've got a whole proof of concept and you've got your initial prototype design, and within there you've got the certifications that you have to consider. So for example, we had been designing a data logger for a water utility company where it had to be ATEX Zone 0 approved, which is basically explosive gases. It needed to be secure for being in volatile areas where explosive gases are present. And that is the sort of stuff that you have to consider. There's so much kind of red tape around the certification process.
Won't go near red tape.
No, exactly. So yeah, it's something that Hubit are involved with if we make our own products, but it's just understanding if we deploy stuff throughout the world, does it have the necessary certifications?
Well, one thing I've heard a lot about is security of these kind of edge devices.
Yeah.
People hacking into them, stealing data, especially when it comes to surveillance cameras and things like that.
Yeah.
What sort of considerations should companies looking to deploy this kind of technology take into account?
For remote devices, anything to do with cellular needs to run off a SIM card or similar, whether it's satellite connection or cellular, whatever. For example, the SIM cards that Hubit provide are fixed private IP SIM cards, so that they're not publicly accessible, and they're only accessible through a VPN service, which you either dial into using a secure kind of username password, or it's a complete site A to B VPN tunnel through something like an IPsec VPN. Those are the sort of considerations that customers would need to think about if they want their site to be secure. So if someone's using a public IP SIM card, someone could go around just kind of sniffing out IP addresses, pinging a certain IP address, see if they get a response, and then just flood that IP with data. It's happened before. Way before my time at Hubit, it's happened. We're talking about 15 years ago. So there are certain things that customers can do and think about to avoid any kind of like bill shock, they call it. I think it's called bill shock in the industry, with their SIM cards. So as long as things are set up right, then it shouldn't be a problem. And you limit your user access to these devices. So you may only have one or two people that actually know the user credentials for this kind of ad hoc VPN access to their device.
So it's really a case of education.
Education and just being cyber aware. ISO 27001 is obviously a huge thing these days. I think it's kind of overtaken 9001. Everyone's asking about 27001, which is the cybersecurity and security ISO certification. So it's just being aware and education, as you said.
So we've touched on 5G. What's beyond 5G? I mean, we hear in South Korea, who are market leaders in this kind of technology, adopting 6G, 7G being talked about and implemented. As a UK PLC, we're quite far behind the times.
We always have been. When it comes to technology, we kind of always has been. I mean, 6G is just something that I've only recently just heard about. I mean, we're still getting to grips with 5G. So there's always going to be advancements of technology that we're currently used to, especially in Asia, Japan, South Korea, as you mentioned. They are always kind of the ones to think about this new stuff first and prototype it and trial it. So yeah, there's always going to be bigger fish in the sea in terms of this sort of technology. So, but yeah, in terms of 6G, 7G, I'm not too clued up about that because it's just not.
You're focusing on the here and now.
Yeah, it's not anything that we have to really think about selling in the next 10 years because we're still getting into the realms of 5G for IoT anyway. Obviously, for consumer grade stuff like phones and whatever, 5G is ready
Mm.
and it's there. I mean, I go around towns and I've got 5G on my phone quite a lot.
Mm.
So yeah, I think focus on the here and now with technologies like 5G and Edge. 6G and 7G will come in time.
Mm. No, it's interesting to see UK PLCs, a market leader in so many other fields. But when it comes to technology, that we, let's face it, we're a hungry nation for
Yeah.
for technology. Yet we lag, no pun intended. We're actually so far
Yeah.
behind the
I think
behind the
it's a
curve.
matter of people not ready to adopt new technologies because they have systems in place that work for them
Mm,
already. So there's that time old saying, isn't there? If it's not broken, don't fix it.
true.
But people are going to have to do it eventually because they will be phased out.
Mm,
So, for example, the 3G shutdown was actually a huge success for Hubit
mm,
because so many customers had previously bought 3G devices, but they were going offline, so their hand was forced to upgrade to 4G and even 5G, and it will always happen. Things are always going to be phased out and new technology coming in. But it's just a matter of people not wanting to change what they have because it works for them.
mm.
But then a lot of people are kind of blindsided by the fact that how much more it can do for them, this new technology, and how much money it can save them in the long run.
Mm. When you've got when you're looking at pounds and pence,
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
good. That's the underwriting factor.
Yeah.
So 5G connectivity. What do you think? This is your personal view here, Nick.
Yeah.
Exciting applications that might come online in the coming years for 5G. What are you looking forward to seeing?
It's what I mentioned earlier. It's the interaction between different devices, the kind of seamless interaction that will make life smarter, especially in cities. You've got things like in building management, for example, you can have devices that have 5G built into them
Mm,
that will, for example, down a hallway, you have a presence sensor that's got a 5G module built in. It detects someone walking into a room. The air conditioning unit in the 5G that's got a 5G module in will talk to the presence sensor and say, look, there's someone coming into the room, turn the aircon on. Is that sort of stuff where the interaction between devices makes things more kind of seamless and it's more efficient. So you
mm,
won't have an aircon unit that's just running all the time because no one's in
mm,
there.
mm,
I know it sounds very simple, but a lot of places don't adopt this sort of technology.
mm.
So it's just making the world a bit of a smarter place is
Yeah.
what I'm looking forward to with technologies like 5G and even LoRaWAN, things like that.
Mm.
Um, LoRaWAN's got a huge use case in building management as well.
So one thing that really excited me when I went to Embedded World in Nuremberg just over a month ago.
Yeah,
There was like this innovation zone, the Taiwanese innovation
yeah, we
zone.
were there as well.
Fantastic show.
Yeah,
And this one, it was a pair of glasses, and it was actually sunglasses that had a camera
mm,
inside, kind of up here. And they were AI cameras. So as you were cycling along, whether it's on your mountain bike
yeah,
or on the road, it was picking out potential threats or potential problems and
yeah,
backing them up to your personal cloud. And you
yeah,
think, crikey, that's a pair of sunglasses that's
mm,
adopting all this technology, and it's got to be transmitted somewhere.
yeah.
So
I mean, this is the thing. Like chipsets are always getting smaller. Like you're talking nanometers in terms of chip size and everything. Batteries are getting smaller and more powerful. T Connectivity is getting faster with less power consumption. So these sort of devices are possible. I saw those as well when I was there, and I was pretty shocked by them. It's
I
like something
was
out of a James Bond film from
I was, I
20
was,
years
I
ago.
was, I was pretty blown away by them.
Yeah,
And as soon as I put them on, I was like, wow, this is, I'm a mountain biker. And I thought, wow, this is just another gadget that I want,
yeah, yeah.
whether I'll
But
probably
you've
need it or
you've got
not.
to think of the use cases for this and how scalable it is.
Mm.
Because
I, you see some.
Security, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, security is a massive one. You know,
yeah,
if you use these glasses in the city riding along, which I can see, tremendous value,
yeah,
for that. Um, how easy are they to hack into? Hacking into your personal cloud as well.
yeah, and that's always a talking point. Um, you remember 5, 10 years ago, iCloud hacks and all that sort of stuff.
Mm,
It's always a prominent conversation, and especially in the corporate world
mm,
where security is one of the number one things at the moment. People are concerned where certain modules are manufactured and built,
mm,
where in the world they're built, and they don't want to buy them from X country, or
yeah.
they don't want it shipped through X country. That sort of stuff. Even though 99% of the time it's fine, but
Mm,
it's just that lingering thing in the back of their head.
mm,
It's this chip's been manufactured here.
mm,
Why? What risks does that impose
mm,
to me? Is my data safe and all that sort of stuff? So yeah, the prominence of cybersecurity these days, especially in the last 2 years, I feel has skyrocketed.
mm.
A lot of people are asking questions about are these things secure and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that we could talk all day
Yeah,
about, and there are much better experts out there than you and
absolutely,
I.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's a very interesting topic. How these wearables can be that need to be secure.
Yeah,
So let's move on. You're product manager at Hubit, and
yeah,
you've seen lots of great stuff being built and sent out.
yeah.
Us, Sims and Hubit, we work together. Just from a personal point of view, are there any concepts? Are there any projects that you've particularly enjoyed working on? And you mentioned, Hubit do the concept to completion.
Yeah.
Are there any ones that stand out in particular that you'd like to
I
share?
mean, yeah, there was one when I first started at Hubit. I was actually an account manager. So I was doing sales for a bit. Um, and then in my transition from account manager to product manager, I was working with a customer that worked within the agriculture sector. So they build kind of monitoring systems for farming. So they will monitor how
Mm.
often an animal feeds and drinks and estimates their size and mass. It's not for a very nice industry. It's for slaughtering industry.
I mean, you don't associate
No,
this kind of technology with farming. You think
no,
kind of
no,
tractors and
exactly.
combine harvesters and milking cows.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. But this device, the guy was actually building himself in his garage, and it was meant to be a kind of waterproof and dustproof box, but he kept finding spiders and insects and things eating away at his cable, so it's obviously not very waterproof if things get inside. And we initially spoke to him and we said, look, what what are you doing? And all he wanted to do at the time was buy a router from us, and we just kept trying to open that conversation to him because he wasn't aware of what we did as a company. He thought we were just a box shifter.
Mm,
So this was the transition between us being the box shifter, as I mentioned, to the solutions finder and things like that. So we finally got it out of him that yes, he's building these boxes in his garage, but he doesn't have the workforce and the time and the money to buy these devices and put them together and this, that, and the other. So we said to him, look, we can do that for you in-house, build you a few prototypes and get them shipped out to you and your customer so they can test them. So this was a project that I picked up from proof of concept, built the prototype, got it sent out to him. I think I built 4 units for the first prototype, and it's within this box is a steel enclosure, a galvanized steel box that he hangs up on a wall, and in there is an embedded PC, which he runs his software on
mm,
to monitor the animal farming and all that sort of stuff. A cellular router, some USB inputs, Ethernet inputs, and some 24-volt output for power. He connects his cameras to them, and yeah, it just worked for him because
mm,
we took that stress off his hands so he could focus on developing his software properly.
mm,
We built the hardware, sent it to him. He sent it to his customer for a 6 months test. and they were overjoyed with it. And since then, we've built over 40, 50 units by hand.
Wow.
We're hoping in the future that it's going to be a lot more, where we'll have to outsource the manufacturing because there's only a few of us here really, and I'm not going to build 400 units every month myself. So it was just nice seeing the project from proof of concept to not mass deployment, but to it being a finished product and a product with a part number and a serial number and have it all ready. So that's one that stood out for me because it was probably my first one that I've dealt with solo and got it over the line for our customer.
So I think that the takeaway from that, Nick, is, you know, from concept to completion, Hubit can build you a system, whether it's a one-off proof of concept through to you know a production run.
Yeah, because we did it all in house. We built the bill of materials, we brought everything in, did the schematics, the wiring diagrams, certification, brought all the bits together and provided him with a finished boxed solution, which he could just get send it out and not have to worry about it.
Amazing. It's like agriculture as well. You just think that what a vast operation it is on you know on a farm, whether you're arable, dairy, you know, things are getting so smarter to track your animals even, you know.
I mean it's things like tracking your machinery, tracking the animal farming, all that sort of stuff. But then it's even monitoring your crops. You've got pH sensors for soil, you've got humidity levels for soil, automatic kind of watering systems that go across your crops, and it's all battery powered and wireless.
That's
and it's just all run by a smart API. But the problem is a lot of these farmers and people in this industry, they don't want to adopt this new sort of stuff because they've been so hard hit by COVID and everything. They don't have the resources and the money to invest in this stuff without a government grant. Because as I said, they were so hard hit by COVID. And in the last 3 years, IoT has really taken an upward surge.
So the farming industry is to a certain degree playing catch up with this technology.
Yeah, absolutely. It can benefit them so much. In the long term, it can benefit them so much.
Yeah, but as you rightly point out, Nick, it comes down to funding. You know, these systems aren't cheap, but you know, who knows where the future will take us.
Exactly.
So I've got to say, Nick, that was it's been really great to talk to you today.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for sharing your experiences and talk to us about Hubit Technology. Fascinating insight. Ladies and gents, thanks for watching. Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to you joining us on the next Making It Happen Sims podcast. Thanks very much.